What's going on, comic fans? It's Mike from the Hardcover Comic here. Hope you've all been doing well, staying safe and sound. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We're a comic channel that loves to talk about hardcover comics or just comics in general. One thing I'm really looking forward to this year is getting some more custom binds done. And whenever I go to look for custom binds, I typically look for series that I want to read. And, custom binding is a very long haul game. It's a very long term game. You're thinking of things years in advance at times if it's a current series. So I took a look at some of Image's newer titles that have come out in anticipation of potentially custom binding them or waiting and determining if they're good enough to get a potential deluxe edition sometime in the future. Today I wanted to talk about 3 titles that for sure will end up on my shelf one day in one way, shape, or form, all from Image Comics. We'll talk about the story, we'll talk about the art, and what's happening with the series so far. So without further ado, let's dive into 3 awesome recent Image hits. For this month of April 2023, I'm going to do these almost on a kind of monthly basis sort of thing. We'll see. I'll try and get at least 2 or 3, 4 Image hits discussed within the course of a month, because Image puts out so many amazing titles, and every month they're putting out more and more amazing titles. I'll try to throw in some Boom, things like that into the mix as well. Let's get into it though. We'll talk first and foremost about a fantastic title called Black Cloak by Kelly Thompson. An amazing story so far. I've really enjoyed what I read. As far as I know, this is an ongoing title from Image Comics with artwork by Meredith McLaren. As of April, there are 4 issues out. I've really enjoyed reading them myself personally. The book follows a detective named Phaedra Essex. She's a detective in this world, in this universe the world universe, in a city called Kiros. She's a detective. This city, this world, this universe is one of those universes that has a whole bunch of interesting mythical creatures within it. You've got mermaids, you've got characters that are made of smoke, various different kinds of creatures and races all living together in what seems like a relative harmony. One day, being a detective, she stumbles on a murder scene. The murder scene is someone from the city's royal family. This gentleman also happens to be someone that Phaedra at one point was betrothed to. So right from the start, you're getting this character who clearly has some sort of past that has led to her being a detective instead of being involved more so in the royal family. You get to meet her partner, Pax, as well, who's an awesome, great character. Both of these characters as a buddy cop sort of team are fantastic. This universe is really exciting, and the mystery of this story unfolds at such a pace. You keep learning bits and pieces of Phaedra's past as she's investigating and interrogating people, talking to people. The world starts to unravel as more and more chaos ensues as well. Not just this murder, attempts on Phaedra's life, attempts on her friends' lives. A lot of things start happening behind the shadows of what seems like a utopian society. The artwork may not be for everyone. I personally liked it. It's a very different style from what I'm used to reading in comics. And of course, this being an indie title, it worked after a while because, well, there was nothing else to compare it to. So I really liked it. I thought it suited the title. It over time grew on me. May not be for everyone, but I'm really excited to see where this story goes. I really like detective stories, especially when it comes to mystical and fantastical worlds, because there are all these twists and turns for things you couldn't necessarily think of as a reader, because there are so many details being thrown at you with all these various races and species, and some of those things may end up being part of the murder mystery. So very excited to see where this goes. I would hope there would be a deluxe edition for it someday, but depending how long this title goes, I think it'll be a nice 20-ish issue sort of story that'll nicely fit in a custom bind. So very much looking forward to seeing where it goes. Can't recommend checking out Black Cloak enough. Next up is a book that I want to mention just because it's really awesome, and you may just be waiting on it or not even realize that it's out yet. Little Monsters, Jeff Lemire, Dustin Nguyen. The team that brought us Ascender and Descender and Ascender. An incredible creative team that is once again knocking it out of the park with Little Monsters, a black and white and red title that focuses on a group of children I think there's about 6 or 7 of them that live in this seemingly abandoned town, this abandoned city, running around at night, hunting rats, playing tag, seeing who can, jumping off of buildings together because they're all vampire children. This is sort of where the story starts. You get introduced to this relatively empty and depressing world with these kids that are excited for life. They're excited to discover new things, but they've been told by the elder not to leave the town they're in. That's kind of the plot of the story, until one day one of them stumbles on a person, stumbles upon a human being. That's when things start getting fun. That's when things start getting exciting. Jeff Lemire, Dustin Nguyen. I really can't spoil much more. The one beef I kind of have with the story is the kind of beef I have with every book by Jeff Lemire. In particular, Jeff Lemire, is that it goes by so quickly, you just want more. So I really can't wait to see where this goes. This, I assume, will get deluxe editions at some point in the future. At the point of this recording in April, there are 12 issues out, so you've got a lot you can read so far. I highly recommend checking it out if you're into vampires, which seems to be a theme for me recently in terms of my comic reading and discovery. I really recommend checking out Little Monsters. If you're a fan of Jeff Lemire, fan of Dustin Nguyen, they're at the peak of their game here. Highly recommend checking it out. The last title we're going to talk about for the Image Hits of April is Bloodstained Teeth, written by Christian Ward with artwork by Patrick Reynolds. 10 issues out as of this recording, an ongoing title as far as I'm aware. As I mentioned, we're on the theme of vampires for some reason. I recently decided to reread American Vampire. Now we've got Little Monsters and Bloodstained Teeth mentioned in the same video. Bloodstained Teeth is a very cool story featuring vampires, but vampires with a little bit of hierarchy. It's not as abandoned and disorganized as Little Monsters. There's a lot more organization here. You've got the High Council of Vampires, the original vampires, the people that come into the world as vampires, and essentially whenever one of those vampires turns a normal human being into another vampire, that vampire is called a sip. So we get introduced to this character, this gentleman named Atticus Sloan, who is a man that loves to spread the sip around. If he's doing it for cash or favors or things. So Atticus has gotten into the habit of essentially being a vampire transitioner for hire, but the High Council, not fans of that at all. Of course, in this sort of day and age that we live in now, social media, the internet, becoming a vampire starts becoming, public. People start becoming aware of the fact that people are vampires. A lot more people are wanting to become vampires. This is a problem. This is a huge problem for the High Council because they're organized. There is order within their world of vampirical dominance, and they don't want every person running around out of control as a vampire. So Atticus Sloan has been given the task of eliminating every sip he's turned, or it's his life. A very, very interesting story. There are a lot of moving pieces within the story because you've got other characters like a doctor. Again, I'm not going to spoil too much. A lot of these series are all relatively new. You get introduced to a doctor who turns out to be what is kind of like a female version of Blade. Really cool stuff. There's a lot going on. The artwork by Patrick Reynolds is awesome. I love the colors. I love the style of it. It feels very much like something, a vampire aesthetic. It's got that sort of neon glow to it. Reminds me of some vampire video game that I'm just not remembering right now. But either way, I'm really looking forward to it. I think Christian Ward, I've only seen his name as an artist on books. So I'm really happy to see Christian getting into writing now. And so far, I'm really impressed with this title. So if you're looking for yet another vampire book to get into, or if you just like thrillers with a nice twist of like a nice neo-gothic vampire twist, highly recommend checking out Bloodstained Teeth. I think this is a book that will see a deluxe edition someday in the future, but if not, I'm very much looking forward to custom binding it. Those are my Image hits for the month of April. Of course, Image puts out a lot of quality titles, so I can't mention them all. Otherwise, what am I going to talk about a month from now, first of all? And second of all, how am I going to remember to do it? I can't give every title justice. Even now, these quick little snippets talking about all three of these titles has felt like me not doing enough justice to them. I really recommend checking them out for yourself if you can. an amazing set of books. I'm really looking forward to May and what that brings. I'll be coming back with more image hits. Let me know down, and let everyone else watching know down in the comments below what your image hits of the month of April were. And until next time, as always, you stay classy, internet.